library sector, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this momentous occasion as we celebrate 25th anniversary of International Mother Language Day. Colleagues, today we gather under the theme Preserving Voices, Empowering Minds, where we'll be exploring the role of libraries in language diversity. This theme also highlights the vital role that libraries play in preserving linguistic diversity, empowering communities, and also fostering multilingualism in education, in research, and also in community engagement. In a world where cultural heritage and identity are deeply rooted in language, it also becomes our collective responsibilities as library and information service professionals, whether we working in academic libraries, public libraries, special libraries, as archivists, to safeguard and also to promote our mother languages. This is our heritage. And as custodians of knowledge, libraries also play a pivotal role in this practice. Colleagues, today we are very privileged to have esteemed speakers who will share their expertise on various aspects of language diversity, including how technological developments or advancements are impacting how our language is managed and also preserved as well. And in higher educational institutions, we have language policies that have been developed and are also being implemented. And it will also be nice to hear how these language policies are being implemented by academic libraries in including in ensuring that language is or mother tongue is included in our respective libraries. Colleagues, before we proceed, allow me to go over some housekeeping rules. Please ensure that your microphones are muted during the session. And feel free to also engage through the chat feature where you can also post your comments or questions that you might have. We'll also have a dedicated Q&A session where you'll have an opportunity to engage with the speakers. But you can also note your questions in the chats. Colleagues, without wasting any more time, we have an interesting program where our first speaker is Dr. Nkem Osuigwe. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Are you here, Dr. Nkem?
Yes, please, I'm here. Thank you very much, Lady D.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you. Our first speaker is Dr. Nkem Osuigwe. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, representing the African Library and Information Association and Institutions, AFLIA. Just to give a brief background or bio of Dr. Osuigwe. Dr. Nkem is the Director of Human Capacity Development and Training at the African Library and Information Association and Institutions, AFLIA, and a passionate advocate of open knowledge and continuous professional development for Africa's transformation. She champions critical librarianship, promoting social justice, cultural diversity, and the decolonization of knowledge. As the project lead of AFLIA's collaborations with organizations like OER Africa, Wikimedia Foundation, and Book Aid International, she has significantly impacted library advocacy and open knowledge initiatives. Her accolades include the Wikimedian of the Year 2022, a newcomer category, and the Nigeria Wikimedia User Group Torchbearer Award in 2023, an alumna of WIPO and a member of the UNESCO IGF OER Dynamic Advisory Group. She's also actively promoting open culture and heritage. She is a prolific writer, a translator, having published articles, book chapters, and over 25 storybooks in ebook. So colleagues, that also demonstrate how her participation and advocacy in preserving mother languages. She's also a global speaker. She shares her insights on X, previously known as Twitter, and also on LinkedIn. Without wasting any more time, colleagues, we'll now hand over to Dr. Osigo, who will discuss the UNESCO OER recommendation, language diversity, and African libraries. Over to you, Doc.
Thank you very much, Lady D, and thank you, Liesa, for inviting me to this. Also, my appreciation goes to Collins, a dear colleague that I had met the first time in Hong Kong. I think it was in 2014 at a conference in Hong Kong. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. So today I want to talk to us about UNESCO OER recommendation, language diversity and libraries. And also I want to appreciate the people behind this. Well, I just mentioned the ones I know that came up with this topic, preserving voices, empowering minds, and the roles of libraries in language diversity. And this is quite critical for us in Africa, considering that I think that there are around 7,000 spoken languages all over the world, and only Africa has more than 2,000. Now, the whole world, but Africa has more than 2,000 and counting. Why there's no definite number is that some countries overdo it or overdid it. In Nigeria, we have more than 500 local languages. I know that in South Africa that you have like 11 official local languages, but there are still more. So it is quite good that we are talking about this. When we talk of empowerment, we think of education because it's the surest way to empowerment for all. Through education, voices, ideas, opinions, and stories can be told and expressed and then heard. Education will give you that leverage to talk, to speak, to tell people your own experiences. But again, just bear in mind that when I speak about education, it can be formal, it can be informal. We know of systems in Africa, in some countries, where the informal education means like going to train under somebody in a particular trade, or as you go and be to be mentored to learn. That's also a form of education. So when I speak of education, I mean all of that. And now, when we are talking of education, whether it's informal or formal, the question that people always ask, what is the role of libraries in all this? What do you people do in libraries? Is it not just the books that you have, the journals that you have? If we don't have internet, we can come and use and so on. Are libraries just necessary adjuncts to education that provide learning and supplementary reading materials, maybe that enable research too? But I want to tell us today, we can do this and more, quite more. Librarians must show that they can play a role in driving quality and inclusive education, for all, as well as lifelong learning, as enshrined in SDG Goal 4. But Africa is Africa is Africa. For Africa to achieve inclusive and quality education, particularly education that answers to our realities, because our realities are realities. They are what I experience when I go to work in Ghana, or I am at home in Nigeria, is different from what I experience when I visit my children in the UK. Our realities are different. So we need education, quality and inclusive education that answers to our realities, educational systems, and materials. And we need materials, resources, knowledge resources that must be in line with current best practices and still tailored to reflect African realities. This will make learning to become functional so that young people will be exposed to modern day knowledge and skills in contexts that's that's with contextual meaning that will enable them to leave school at different levels with enough capacity to ensure their future, whether it's economic or social or anything. But what they learn in school must answer to what they are going to be or what they aspire to be within Africa. Education should not be merely esoteric and full of theories, but should meet the specific needs of different communities on the continent. You know, in Africa, being in school should not be equal to learning. I know what I mean, because you can go to school, at the end of the day, you find out that the things that you were taught in school, you keep them at one side of your head. The things that you do at home, in your community, are at another side of your head. You can go to school, learn to be an electrical engineer, and you learn all these beautiful theories, and so on. But how can you fabricate an ordinary ceiling fan? How can you do it? Because you kind of, everything learned in school were all in theories, beautiful theories, wonderful theories, but they didn't relate to your practical reality as an African that goes home, and when you go home, you speak your local language. But everything you learned in school, all of them are in beautiful English. You can speak English, you can write English, you can teach in English, but yet you find out that you can't apply the things that that you learned in school locally. And it's like a learning crisis. And what we are advocating for in AFLIA is that whatever we are doing in education now, it needs to be complemented by a more radical approach that focuses on enhancing learning outcomes. There is therefore need, to begin to reorient African education, starting from libraries. Libraries will say, yes, we can do it. I believe we can do it in Africa, because there's something about African librarians that thrill me. We are always ready to learn. We are ready to push ahead. So that's why I'm saying that it can start from us. So this reorientation will work towards changing our training systems to meet the knowledge, competency, skills, innovation, and creativity that is required to nurture African core values and promote sustainable development, not as something that government does, but as something that we all can do. And now I come to that UNESCO OER recommendation, because I see it as a vehicle for doing this. And the UNESCO OER recommendation is an international instrument that provides a pathway for leveraging on open educational resources to integrate language diversity, amongst other things, into formal and informal education. I'll tell us how. But this instrument was approved by the nation states of UN on November 29th, 2019. And it is the first international instrument that addresses openly licensed educational materials and technologies in education. The recommendation has 5 essential areas of action to build on and to sustain the OER ecosystem. It talks about capacity building, and I can tell you AFLIA has been doing a lot on that. And we have also opened up some of our courses so that anybody can take them. You don't even have to register with us, you don't have to do anything. You can just go to the site and engage with the materials, especially the course that we have on openness. It was created by SAIDI of South Africa with us, and it's quite open there on AFLIA's website. That's the first area of action under the recommendation is capacity building. The second is developing supportive policies. The third is effective, inclusive, and equitable access to quality OER. Then number 4 is creation of OER sustainability models, and then the use of international cooperation to foster OER. Now, let me give you this. You see, inside the OER recommendation, member states are urged to apply the provisions of the recommendation by taking appropriate steps, whether legislative or any other measures, to conform with the practice and governing structure of each state in order to ensure that OERs are entrenched in their educational system. And it's also significant because now every 4 years, every 4 years, nation states are supposed to report how far have you gone with it. Have you integrated it into your educational systems? And one of the questions that may crop up, or that always crop up, is, do you have educational language materials in different languages in your country? You see, I was talking with Collins, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I told him that, I think it was him, I hope it was him, and I told the person that language is a second skin. You see, when you ignore language and teach, it's okay. It's okay. You know, you can just appeal to the head. Oh, the head will get it. But inside of you, I think Mandela had a quote like that. Inside of you, it's not a part of you. And that is why languages are important. Language diversity. And like I said, the UNESCO OER recommendation provides pathways for that. I'm sure that we all know what OERs are, but let me just give a brief recap. I'm watching my time. You know, there are those learning, teaching, and research materials in any format and medium that reside in the public domain, or they are under copyright but have been released under an open license. I want to share a little bit about open licenses, and because that is like the superstructure that holds up OERs, that holds up all open knowledge components. Open licenses are those licenses that respect the intellectual property rights of the copyright owner, or of an author, or of a creator, that provides permissions for users to access, reuse, repurpose, adapt, or change educational materials. They do not replace copyright, please. Instead of that all rights reserved that you see in copyright, what you get is some rights reserved. And some of the licenses, they are all different. But we don't have the time for that. But if you look at the Creative Commons licenses, you see that there are ones that are very free, and CC BY, you can do anything with it, just attributes. There are some that tell you, please, you can attribute, but please, I don't want any extra work to be made from that. Those ones do not allow translations, but there are quite how many now? I think around 4 that allow translations. And what AFIA is trying to do, or what AFIA is teaching librarians, what we want African librarians to learn is, let us begin to promote these licenses as a way of driving language diversity, as a way of bringing down knowledge down to everybody, irrespective of your language. It doesn't matter if the only language that you understand is, let's say, Luganda. That's your language, and you can understand it. So what if libraries, let's say in Kenya, Uganda, and so on, they have materials that are openly licensed, and they have people that speak those languages and that speak English, they can translate it so that a man in the village that speaks, that understands, that can read Luganda, can read an article or any content to be able to repair a water pump that spoils in his village, because the knowledge is enshrined there and not just in English. That will empower not just the man but the whole community. And that is what AFLIA is trying to drive, so that people will see that learning cannot just be only in a language that is not an African language. Sure, English can be the first language for quite some people, maybe urban dwellers and so on, but people come from somewhere and they have their mother tongues. So learning can be in this language and in the other language. And that is what we have been trying to drive, because these licenses allow educational materials to be shared, revised, and adapted. And all these have a multiplier effect. Now, I have spoken about the 3 action areas of the UNESCO OER recommendation. Action area 3 calls for member states to encourage and to support the creation, access, reuse, repurpose, adaptation and redistribution of inclusive and equitable quality OER. And this is where attention is paid to language, is paid to gender, is paid to underserved communities, because there are some languages that maybe only maybe a few thousands speak it. So do we shift all those ones out? Do we lock them out because, oh, their languages is only a few people and we can't do it? So what we are saying is that open licensing, as advocated through the UNESCO OER recommendation, can be a pathway for libraries to be in the forefront of saying, hey, this thing from UN recommends that we do this. Dear Vice Chancellor, please, can we have a policy on this? Okay, if we have this already, how can we drive it forward? Libraries can please lead the way. Faculty members, please, when you create, you write your research or create content, please, can you use any of these licenses? And they ask, what are these licenses? Librarians all over Africa should be able to educate their user communities that these are the licenses through which you can publish your content, your research, your story, your everything, so that it can be accessible to more and more people. And then also, you see, when we begin to drive that ably and very well, you find out that there are people in villages, like women. You know, women are great people. We are looking forward to the International Women's Day 2025. So pardon me for this. Women are great achievers. Our rural women are doing awesome things. When we champion this kind of thing, we will begin to say, what are your stories? They can't speak English, right? But they can speak their languages. We can now be able to say, let's harness their stories. Let's collect their stories as inspiration to the next generation. So that is why, you know, when I was told to choose a topic for today, I wanted to talk about something on early literacy development, because also AFLIA has used open licensing to teach librarians in public and community libraries all over Africa, translate the stories written in English in your local languages, so that children can learn, so that those ones that are yet to learn English can also enjoy stories, so that we can even collect stories from our old people and put in our libraries and publish them on platforms that allow that, like the African Storybook, again, of Saidi, and Story Weaver of Pratham publishers. So that is what AFLIA has been doing. But one word I want to leave with us before I stop is librarians have the ability to lead the way. As we celebrate the Mother Tongue Day, just know that mother tongues are not just meant to be spoken at home. Yes, that is good. Speak them at home. Blow them. Be proud of who you are. But mother tongues, our languages too, can be instruments of teaching our young people and even the not so young knowledge, bringing knowledge from all over the world and putting them in our languages so that those things that people know in Norway, those people that people know in China, can also be known by our people. That is the only way to birth innovations. That's the only way to make our people more creative and innovative when they encounter knowledge in languages that speak to their hearts and not just to their heads. Thank you very much, Dinah. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That was a mouthful and an insightful engagement or presentation, Dr. Nkem. And indeed, language plays a very it's a bridge to knowledge, and also the UNESCO mandate that you also shared with us, particularly the one that hammers more on ensuring that our languages, in our mother tongue languages, included, not just in formal education, but also where they can also be encouraged in our daily lives as well. And it's very sad that the young generation, some of them, they are not very fluent in terms of their mother language. And in my mother language, we say which essentially means that when a guest comes to your home, they bring something nice with them, signifying hospitality and joy. And what you've shared with us has really, for me, I would say, it has really, I've learned, and also the fact that you mentioned that in Nigeria, there's over 500 local languages. And also in South Africa, though we have 12 official or 11 official languages, we do have languages that are not officially recognized, which means that those languages become they are marginalized. The gap becomes wider and wider on a daily basis. Thank you very much. So on that note, colleagues, please note your questions on the chat, and you'll also get an opportunity to engage with Dr. Osuigwe during the Q&A session. Thanks a lot for that insightful presentation, Doc. Colleagues, we're now going to move to our next speaker according to our program. And this is Prof. Mpongwepe from the University of South Africa Library and Information Services. And a brief bio of Prof. Mwepe. Prof. Mwepe is a professor and executive director of the Library and Information Services at the University of South Africa. He was previously the director of School of Arts and head of Information Science Department at University of South Africa. He is the editor-in-chief of South African Journal of Libraries and Information Science, and he has recently been appointed to serve in the advisory board of Information Development, a journal published by SAGE. Prof. Mwepe is also a C2 NRF-rated researcher who has published books, articles, and also featured some of the articles in newspapers. Prof. Mwepe is also an advocate of indigenous languages of mother tongue languages, and has also led various projects in developing and managing and also preserving these languages, both nationally and internationally. Colleagues, without wasting more time, I will now hand over to Prof. Mwepe to engage us further. The floor is yours, Prof.
Thank you, Program Director. I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear, Prof.
Thank you once again. I have just showed my picture via the video and switched it off. And good morning, colleagues and cousins. And the brief
Bob,
for me,
excuse me,
yes,
Bob. Are you able to put your presentation in a reading mode or presentation mode?
it is. From my side, it is.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see it.
Because on our side, it's showing two slides at a time, including the next slide.
Is it still doing that?
Yes. Oh, now it's fine. It's fine now.
Okay. Thank you once again. I was just saying that the brief was very brief for me so that I can brief you on the presentation covering libraries, the role of libraries in language preservation and promotion. So I decided to rephrase the title to Going Together, the contribution of an academic library, meaning that this is a specific library in language preservation and promotion. So the information that I would be sharing with you, I just want to make a disclaimer that most of the information that I would share with you today is I've participated in a number of projects on language spaces over the years. So that the case study will be based on that information. So without waste of time, to put things into perspective, I will just take you through the background of why languages now and the reality with regard to the language implementation in libraries or in institution, and what is the problem, and how do we go about circumventing this reality by going together, and then the lesson sharing best practices in terms of the projects, and then that will be the way forward. Mainly, I will focus on academic libraries and academic institutions because this is the sector. I've excluded my experience in public libraries in the project that we run through the public libraries. We are told that in the beginning, during the Tower of Babel, the whole world spoke one language and a common speech. And the people came together and using the bricks and they wanted to build a tower that can reach the heaven. And the story goes on to say that the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the people were building. And then he said, if these people speaking the same language, they begin to do this, then their plan to do will be impossible for them. So come, let us go down and confuse their language so that they will not understand each other. The story went further that the Lord scattered them from there all over the earth and they stopped building the city. And that is why it is called Babel, the Tower of Babel. So, ladies and gentlemen, this story comes from the book of creation written by Moses. I thought I would hear amen, but let me just continue. So, if you have heard from my predecessor, she also spoke about Nigeria having many languages. And this is the background that I've given. And in South Africa as well, we've got the Section 6 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, which lists 11 official languages as you can see them there. Those are listed as they are in the Constitution. But like the speaker said, our languages are a little bit over 11. They are close to 35. There are those that are not recognized by the Constitution, but the Constitution recognized those. And then with the 12th one being the sign language and also the Kelobedu. And The Use of Official Languages Act 12 of 2012 also requires that these languages must be used. And flowing from the Constitution and from the as well as this act, the higher education also have the language policy framework for public higher institution. It started early 2000, but it was also revised in 2022, but came into effect, revised in 2020 and came into effect in 2022. And that section 11 of the policy emphasized on the advancement of indigenous languages as the languages of teaching and learning, scholarship, and research, and the significant transformation in higher education. So in some universities now, they propagate for mother tongue-based multilingual education, as you heard from my predecessor. And this is advocated through the university language policy. I assume that each and every university has got this policy. I see on the charts, they say they can't hear. I don't know if it is the case with everybody before I continue.
You are audible from my side, Prof. I think
Okay.
maybe the challenge might be on their side.
Okay,
But
thank you. Yes, and having given that background, the catch and reality is that the university libraries in supporting language development, we rely more on the collection development policy because we support the research and teaching and learning mostly through the collection, and then we utilize collection development policy, wherein if we have to support the language development, we have to align our policies and everything with the university strategic objectives and transformation agenda so that we can transform the collection in the diverse content and formats, and also making that collection accessible to the clients, and so that it becomes relevant to academic research, teaching, and learning. But the problem is that as much as there is a language policy and there is everything, English is still the medium of instruction. And you can even see in this webinar. So English is the one that is given more airtime than any other language. And this is compounded by the fact that Section 6 of the Constitution is not costed. And the language policies at the university is, at least in my university, but I assume even in other university, is not costed, and then funding becomes an issue in this regard. If it's not costed at the constitutional level, DHET, for example, when they allocated funds last year for this year, they allocated each university 2 million, and it became one size for implementation of language for teaching and learning, and then research. That 2 million for all the for each university, and they fail to understand that one size does not fit all, because universities are in different demographics, in different regions where different languages are spoken. Others, they are in areas where all the languages are spoken, and then they have to implement for all the spoken languages. So there are complexities within complexities. So costing and funding is an issue. So how do we go about circumventing this reality or this problem? First, as a start, the issue of alignment of library function with a university strategy, so that what you do every year align to what the direction that the university is taking. So I will be addressing this slide going forward, but I will not come back to it. And in this regard, you look at the direction of the university in terms of the language policy, and also the pillar of the strategy, where the universities go in terms of languages, in terms of its key performance areas. And the other area of circumventing is through harvesting low-hanging fruits. I will also go through this. And as you harvest low-hanging fruits, you use the soft power theory, and this require you to know your strength and what you have. I can just give you an example with one partner that we had at one library that we had in Mahikeng. The name of the library is Monsiwa Public Library. And then when I asked the librarians there, why is it named this? And then who is Monsiwa and what? They didn't know. But for me, as a librarian, the start will be there that I should have a collection that addresses local needs. People should know themselves before they even get a collection that addresses things outside the town, things outside the province, things outside the country, things outside the continent, and things outside the globe. So that is why I say you need to know your strength and you need to know yourself. And we have to also position the library on the center of academic project in order to win. And partnership is important. External partnership within the university, in internal partnership within the university with the faculties and other directorates, and externally with other stakeholders. And repurposing library spaces because especially in our case, people are no longer coming to the library that much because 70% of the resources can be accessed online. So we need to repurpose those spaces for other things. So as I go and I will be addressing all these 5 issues that through the project that we have done. One of the low-hanging fruits is that the university is implementing the language policy, and one of the issues that is requires multilingualism in that. And within the University of South Africa, for example, there are other resources that have been developed. And then as the library, the first step to start is to look at all those resources that have been developed within the university, and then you harvest them into the collection development. I gave example of this multilingual proverbs dictionary, which covers English, Sepedi, Chivenda, and Xitsonga. And this is extended to all other languages. It's just that the latest version is not yet published. But as a library, we go and harvest this. Is our contribution towards preserving the language and developing the language, because this dictionary is interactive. You can access it online. Anybody can access it. It's open access, it's interactive, and then it can enrich the language and people understand the meaning. And it's got 200 entries in each language, and then the equivalent of that proverb updated in other 3 languages. So it's very, very useful towards a development and as well as a preservation. That is a first one through the paremiology. And there was, when the transformation started, there were departments that were developing glossaries. These glossaries, we also harvest them, make them available as interactive within the library side, because most people go to the library side, and then they are in many modules, in many field of studies. So we harvest them all and then make them available. So these are some of those low-hanging fruits that I'm talking about. And even looking at the project that are already there at the university, this links to that one of multilingual proverbs, but this one is emojis in Northern Sotho, and we also liaise with our internal partners that are doing this project so that we can store this for them, that this can be accessible. And these are also useful not only to university, but also to the broader community. Because if you can see, this is it is developed by the Department of Linguistics and Modern Languages under the School of Arts, where in this later is going to be into an app. You can see the first one, wherein a person can guess the proverb. It can be a game in an app, going to be a gamification. And then in the process is developing the language through the proverbs or paremiology. And the proverb if you guess it, you can guess it on the chart, but it's just that you can see a rhino, you can see a person thinking, it can see a person climbing a tree. Literally means hopola chugudu namele star, or speak of the devil, he will appear. That is the equivalent. And then the next one, you can see a person running away from it is raining, a person is running away, and then the other one is going the other direction, and it's thunder. It just means that mochava pula o chavela matorotoro, and then the equivalent will be out of a frying pan into the fire. So those are some of the information that we collect as the library and assist the university in terms of language development. These are just the last ones. The one they say the equivalent will be you can only keep going when you have eaten, and or the next one will be that it is ke kgomo ya moshate wa e gapa o molato wa e tlogela le wena o molato. Is be between the devil and the deep blue sea, or in Afrikaans as the sen twee vure set wat jy doen al ook is verkeerd. So it or catch-22 situation. So those are the issues that we are doing in terms of multilingualism, and then the library is also playing a role. And I've also spoken of repurposing spaces, storytelling, spelling bee, and career expo. This is what is happening at the University of South Africa, where in the library is also involved in such, because it educates learners about career choices. We share interesting stories in the library to patrons through the storytelling. And the spelling bee, multilingual spelling bee. Our spelling bee is not a monolingual, it's multilingual spelling bee. And we partner with public libraries and communities, and even the School of Arts through the College of Human Sciences. And we encourage preservation of heritage by community members. And some are able to use this storytelling as a means of income generation and poverty alleviation. And it serves multi-purposes in this regard. And having said that, what we have already done through the Department of Information Science, and then these books are here in the library as well, is that with the storytelling, the participating schools, the winners in each participating schools were given prizes and UNISA branded certificates, and all their stories were included in these volumes, and they are published as anthologies. So far, we have these 3 volumes. They are available as open access as well, and also in print. People can be able to read them as open access. And then those are the examples. And then the multilingual spelling bee is also the same. It started in Limpopo with all the languages that are spoken there, which is English, Chivenda, Xitsonga, and Northern Sotho. But it was later extended to KZN for isiXhosa, isiZulu, and English, and also now to Afrikaans and other languages. And when it goes to Gauteng, and for this year we are planning to just have it in Florida, in our library in Florida, wherein we get the school kids to come and do the multilingual spelling bee. And here we also, the School of Arts also partnered with the SABC to broadcast that. The Limpopo combo of SABC, the 3 radio stations there. And the other big one was the partnership that UNISA had with the National Library of South Africa, ILIFA, and then the Puku Children's Literature Foundation, wherein the MOU was signed. And this was also motivated by the Decade of Indigenous Languages, which is running from 2022 to 2032. We started with the Reading Summit with the National Library of South Africa. But the main purpose of the MOU was to develop a catalog of children's books in indigenous languages to enable consumers to identify and access the best books in their languages. The challenge is that if you look at the PELS report, that 81% of grade 4 learners can't read for meaning or for comprehension. And it is a big problem. So from our side, we always hear people saying that there are no books in indigenous languages. The books are there, it's just that the people don't know where to access them. So we partnered with these colleagues to produce catalogs in indigenous languages, both digital and print. I will just talk later about the ones that we already developed. And over and above that, we also had a series of webinars in all languages. I only picked up Northern Sotho here because it's my mother tongue, but it was in all languages. This one, the webinar in Northern Sotho, it was called Tlhatlošo ya Sepedi Ngwaneng. And I was moderating this one. And in that webinar, we were just speaking purely Northern Sotho. And then as a moderator, and then the summary was that people can see that there is a light. Those who can read the language of Ubumma, they can translate it to in the chat to others who can't speak. Otherwise, it will be lost in translation. But this webinar, people did realize that it does give a hope, but the hope is not that of an oncoming train, but it's a hope that things, the language can be promoted and can be preserved. And summarizing it with a Senegal proverb that even if you put a stick in the river for 100 years, it will never be a crocodile. So this one, I'm just referring to those who prefer English over indigenous languages, that even if you go and speak English, you'll never be an English person. But yeah, that's the translation in that regard. And coming back to the catalog, we started with the isiXhosa catalog, 100 recommended books in isiXhosa for early childhood and foundation phase. It was done. This one was launched in 2022 on 7th of March. And we also started with the workshops for Setswana, reviewing in Setswana, and it was done in 2023, wherein we had faculty members and those who are interested in Setswana attending the workshop, and thereafter it led to a catalog in Setswana and also in Sesotho. We chose Sesotho because Sesotho was celebrating 200 years last year, and then we completed the catalog of Sesotho. And then the link is there. You can see when we launched both the two catalogs. And so far, we have completed the 3 catalogs, Sesotho, Setswana, and isiXhosa. And then we have already conducted 2 workshops in isiZulu last year with the Mzundisi Library, and then the Buku Children's Literature Foundation, and our regional library in Pietermaritzburg. And we also repeated the workshop here this year, at the beginning of this year, in isiZulu. So the next catalog that will be launched will be in isiZulu. I think it's next month. So the other languages, when the funds are available, will move to the other languages. And the other issue is that we also partnered with the faculty members from the School of Arts to have the inaugural Children's Literature Awards in 2023, and they are in the process of publishing those winning manuscripts. And the other problem is that the lack of a platform for publishing is a serious problem that we can talk about it as the libraries. And realizing that there is a lack of funding, we also raised funds for these projects through raising for our languages. I personally ran Comrades it was 88 kilometers to raise these funds during the Comrades Marathon. And yes, and then the coverage was good. The media coverage for that was good. There is a link for that on ENCA, and also for the multilingual dictionary on SABC. And then also from the City Press, the coverage was good. That helped us to be able to raise such funds so that we advance, consolidate and advance all those projects. And we don't only stop there. All the projects that we are doing, we communicate them in the media through opinion pieces, especially in Sowetan, so that ordinary people can be able to access and then know what we are doing in terms of the language promotion and language preservation. And with the partnership through the co-curricular activities, remember earlier on I said align yourself with the strategic objectives of the university. One of the strategic objectives of the University of South Africa under teaching and learning is the co-curricular activities. Those for us, those activities that are not forming part of the functions of the library. One of those that we do is the book talk in indigenous languages, wherein we encourage people to write in their mother tongue. We facilitate this book talks. So far, we have already had one in the city of Matlosane and then the other one in Moreleta. So I just give example of this. And then we also partner with the community radio stations there and then the libraries there so that we are able to deliver this information. As you can hear from this radio station. I don't know if you can hear the advert. And we also don't leave other languages behind, like sign language. We empower all the staff members who are the frontline staff members so that they are able to communicate in the sign language. So we had a workshop and then we have a follow-up so that they are able to service people who are differently able, more especially the deaf community. And going back to the collection development, over and above those others, in terms of our digitization strategies, we prioritize collection. We look at collection that addresses the language development, more especially the marginalized language, like your Hoffman collection, the Berlin Mission Society collection, which have the development of Chivenda and Northern Sotho, and to some extent Setswana and Southern Sotho, when they were developed as the written languages, and all their cultural activities relating to those languages. We prioritize that in terms of digitization. When we digitize, we don't just digitize any other group. We look at where the university is going, and we look at the content that addresses those strategic objectives, and then we digitize that. So this is available online on UNISA LIS Digital Collection as a green open access. You are able to get all this collection that addresses the language development, like the Hoffman papers and the Berlin Mission Society records in indigenous languages. And those are some of the projects that we have done regarding the language epistemology and transformation. And finally, as I conclude, we'll be hosting the book club now to encourage reading. And with it will be next week, 27th of February, and the keynote speaker is Dr. Siphiwe Mahala, who's writing in isiXhosa and also in English. And for me, as a concluding statement, I'm saying that for us to be able to move, you can see that we have been moving together. So it is only if we are moving together that we can be able to optimize the resources, be financial, human, and technological. And then this can be formalized through the MOUs, like we have done with the Puku Children's Literature Foundation, National Library of South Africa, and ILIFA. And one thing that is missing now is providing platform for publishing in indigenous languages, especially for research and also for teaching and learning, because we were leaning more towards the stories and fiction and others and archival materials. But for research and teaching and learning, we need to also move in that direction, creating platforms for that. And as the library, especially the academic library, we are able to do that. And even the green open access gives us an opportunity to do that. So in all our projects, we were able to attain some of the SDG objectives, such as Goal 4, 10, and 17. The one for education and inclusivity, and then the one for partnerships. So having said that, I would like to conclude by saying, let us go together so that we can go far and take these languages. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. A big round of applause for this presentation, and with you sharing the best practices that not only academic libraries, but also other type of libraries can also take advantage of. Because some of the projects or initiatives that you shared can also be embedded in other libraries as well. And you've highlighted a lot of things, and also the fact that language policies are not costed. Though we want, there's a dire need for implementation of these languages in our institutions, yet there isn't sufficient funding. But we've also highlighted some of the hanging fruits that we can take advantage of. Also harvesting the resources that are already available. And while you were engaging us, Prof, it also, I also thought of some of the resources that are available in my institutions that we overlooked. So I think it creates an opportunity for us to go back and also engage the relevant stakeholders, form partnership, collaborate with webinars highlighting that we can also have these webinars in indigenous languages or African languages. It really, for me, it's an eye-opening opportunity as well, and it also an opportunity for us to go back to the drawing board, do an introspection. Are we as librarians fluent in our mother tongue? Are we fluent enough to have these type of engagements like the one that we're having now in our African languages? Yeah, so thanks a lot, Prof. And I see the chat is buzzing with comments. Thank you so much for your contribution in preserving and ensuring that our languages do not die, but we develop them, and we also show the young generation that our languages have potential. Colleagues, I've just seen now that among our esteemed guests, we have our LIASA president, the Library and Information Association president, Mr. Charlie Molepo. Thank you, sir, for joining this session. It's appreciated that you are here to celebrate this International Mother Language Day with us. Thank you so much. Colleagues, next on our program, we have Mr. Jeremiah Peterson from Stellenbosch University Library and Information Service. Just to read his brief bio. Jeremiah Peterson is the Manager of Learning and Training at Stellenbosch University Library and Information Service. His previous experience includes subject librarianship, acquisitions, and digital scholarship at the University of Cape Town Libraries. His research interests are in academic libraries, research support in academic libraries, and the new skills required for the academic librarian to successfully provide research support in the digital scholarship arena. He currently serves as a board member of the Wikimedia South African chapter. He will be engaging us on Wikipedia and the promotion of mother languages in South Africa. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me?
Loud and clear, thank you.
Wonderful, thanks. So thank you for the previous speakers for such a comprehensive presentation. It's wonderful to see and to celebrate how much work is going on and how much thought is going behind the promotion of mother languages in South Africa and Africa. So I'm going to speak of Wikipedia and the promotion of mother languages in South Africa. And I'm very happy that there are a few colleagues like Ingrid Thompson and Sipho Fako who could fill in gaps if I leave out anything. Yeah, and you're welcome to engage in the chat as I speak. So my presentation won't be too long. I hope that that this sparks some ideas in how to get involved with Wikipedia and its sister projects. And I hope to also illustrate how Wikipedia and Wikimedia as a whole contributes towards the development of knowledges in mother languages. And so this is just briefly what I'll speak about this afternoon. I'll start with Wikimedia, speak to Wikipedia. I want to speak a little bit about SWIP, one of the projects that's currently running. And then I'll end off with how we as libraries can get a bit more involved. So the parent company or the umbrella entity for Wikipedia is called Wikimedia, and Wikipedia is just one of the most successful projects of Wikimedia and the Wikimedia Foundation. And this is just a list of the projects that are currently available and are currently being contributed to. And so I'll spend some time talking about Wikipedia, but just to highlight one or two other wiki tools. Wikicommons is where all the free multimedia is stored, and these are openly licensed for use. Wikisource is an interesting platform. It is based on Project Gutenberg, and the idea is that it makes that it is a library of free of content that is free and in the public domain. And then an interesting project that I'm keen to get involved in at some point is Wikispecies. And this is a content bank of plant species. And I am aware that many others exist, but in conversations with botanists, it's interesting that to hear that everyone does want to contribute to a space that is shared and accessible to everyone, and things like Wikispecies provides an opportunity for global participation instead of everyone contributing to their own different platforms. So I'm going to start off with Wikipedia, and these are just a couple of stats that I've pulled out. So we are aware of what Wikipedia is. Wikipedia is a free encyclopedia. Often when we Google any kind of topic, Wikipedia is usually one of the first results that pitch up, usually with some short information that's displayed on the right hand of the screen, or on the top of your search results in Google. But this is a platform that is mostly accessed in the Wikimedia suite of projects. And so at the moment, as of this morning, there are over 127 active editors. There are 341 languages on Wikipedia. And I like what Prof. Mpho said just now in his presentation. English is given more airtime than other languages, and this is very true of Wikipedia also. In Wikipedia, there are almost 7 million articles that is written in English. And when we look at the South African languages, the South African language with the most articles following English is Afrikaans, and Afrikaans is number 69 on the list of 341 languages, and it has 121,000 articles, and that's followed by Zulu, which is 163 on the list, and with 11,590 articles. Northern Sotho has 8,736 articles, and Xhosa has 2,179 articles. And so the other languages, the other South African languages are also represented on Wikipedia. But an interesting project that hopefully gets off the ground uh, and at some point will be made accessible is the project to get Afrikaans up and running. And so Afrikaans is a Afrikaans dialect. It's mainly spoken in Western Cape by colored people. And it's interesting that Wikipedia provides the space for it's not recognized as an official language, but there is culture and history attached to this language, and Wikipedia provides a space for the growth and the development of this language as a more formal entity. And Ingrid can perhaps give more detail on this, but Academics at UCT has worked to develop an Afrikaans dictionary, and a project like that can be supported well by Wikipedia. Okay, so the next thing I want to speak about is SWIP. So like many things in academic libraries, SWIP is a wonderful acronym, and it stands for it's a partnership between SADiLaw, Wikipedia, and PanSolve. And to further explain that, SADiLaw is the South African Centre for Digital Language Resources. Wikipedia, we know, is the Free Encyclopedia, and then PanSolve is the Pan South African Language Board. And this partnership is very important, and I think it's amazing to see such work happening at universities where SADiLaw is supported by government, and it is housed at Northwest University physically. But SADiLaw has been instrumental in bringing together these groups to promote the creation of content in more South African languages. And Wikipedia has become a good place for that kind of work to exist and to live in. And so SWIP has two main goals, and that is to bring together communities of language practice, such as universities, language directorates, and language entities, practically to advance and celebrate the use of South African languages. And the second goal is to encourage language communities of practice to actively participate in contributing to the Free Encyclopedia. And so just a little bit about SWIP as a project. So SWIP is in the second phase of its project now, but the first phase was completed in last year. And the first phase comprised workshops held across 6 regions involving 10 universities, and they trained a total of 483 participants in creating Wikipedia content and using the content translation tool that's currently in beta on Wikipedia to translate articles from English or other languages into South African languages. And so phase 2 is currently underway, and phase 2 will build on the foundation of phase 1. Phase 2 will approach more universities and get more universities involved, using the participants of phase 1 so that the knowledge that was taught is sort of snowballs, and the trainers, the people trained in the first phase become the trainers of the people in the second phase. Yeah, so our current information landscape as it stands, and this is represented on Wikipedia as well, is that there's a Western bias. We can see with the number of articles in English just shows that English is the main language that the world contributes to, and that is mostly the global north. and that perpetuates a Western bias that exists in information. We've got a gender gap, and that is historical, and not all knowledges are represented. And so I want to move on to the next slide, Wikipedia and libraries. And so small ways that we can get involved is, and I'm sure that if you've been on Liasa's mailing list or for the past couple of years, you would have seen something about OneLib, OneRef. And Ingrid is a great runner of this and marketer of this campaign. And I think this is one of the low-hanging fruits when it comes to Wikipedia. One of our where our expertise lies in information work is references, locating references, and making use of references in the correct way. And OneLib, OneRef gives us that opportunity. So OneLib, OneRef stands for one librarian, one reference. So the idea is if we can get each librarian just to add one reference on Wikipedia, we create a knowledge space that is much more reputable. And then the next one is supporting projects like SWIP. So at the moment, SWIP has been engaging with language centers on universities, and libraries haven't been at the forefront of the engagement. But we know at universities, our libraries support information, knowledge creation. And this SWIP, I feel, is an opportunity for libraries to get involved and again, re-emphasize our role in information stewardship. And then one of the things that I always do when I give any kind of information literacy training is when I start a session, I often ask, what is one of the first results that you get when you Google something, a topic that you're unfamiliar with? And more often than not, I get Wikipedia. And Wikipedia is a good starting point to just familiarize yourself with the topic. And imagine a world where you get a Wikipedia result, and when you go into that article, you can immediately change the language to your mother language, to a language that you're comfortable with, so that you can understand, even if you're in an English medium institution, so that you can understand with proper detail what it is that you're looking at, that you can understand the words on the page and not just be confronted with these English words that often has jargon when it comes to very niche areas in scientific fields. So I'm really excited about projects like SWIP that is adding more to languages. And I was just in preparation for this. I was reading up on the translation tool in Wikipedia, and the content translation tool is a tool that was developed so that if you have an English article, you can you have two screens, and when you open up the translation tool, and the one side, the left-hand side is the English article, and the right-hand side is the article in a language that you want to translate to. And the translation tool automatically translates, does the machine translation of the article first. And you can look at the article and compare what the meanings in the two languages. And this is to aid you in more quickly translating an article. And Wikipedia's stance on this is that it is much better to have a rough translation in another language than to have no translation at all. And projects like SWIP is encouraging that translations, so that important information can be accessed in all languages. And then lastly, I just wanted to speak on when it comes to Wikimedia, Wikipedia, and libraries, to speak on why Wikipedia or why Wikimedia as platforms. And I think unintentionally, as academic libraries, we have taken on the culture of our institutions where we're competing with each other, and we're competing to create content and to support our universities in ways that are siloed. And Wikipedia and its sister projects allows us to contribute to a common platform, because we're all working towards towards a common goal. And so before I end off, I just wanted to highlight one of the successful projects that's currently running, and that is the Basisuthu project. And so this was a project to celebrate the 200 years of the Basotho Nation. And my colleague Tuan Musai is the lead of the project, and they had a goal of something like publishing 50 articles, 50 edits, 50 translations, and these are the numbers on the dashboard. They had 475 articles created. They had over 500 edits, articles edited, over 2,000 total edits, and 30 editors. That's amazing. And for projects like this, even though this is run by what we call a language champion, and in partnerships with museums, libraries, public libraries especially, can become spaces for this kind of work to happen. And libraries have always been spaces where information activism happens, where where access is just created for so much more in our society. And then I want to end off with this quote from the Wikimedia website. And it goes, throughout history, knowledge has been controlled by a powerful few. Wikipedia needs knowledge from all languages and cultures. The internet has become a default for accessing information. Women, people of color, and the global south remain underrepresented. We invite you to help correct history. And I think this is such a wonderful call for us all to not only become information keepers, gatekeepers, but also to become creators and to promote the creation of history, not history, of content, so that we can rebalance the knowledges of society. And Wikipedia is such a good reflection of where the knowledges lie. And it would be great if we can get to a point where the global south is just as represented as the global north. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremiah, for that insightful presentation. And indeed, when you search on Google, in most cases, the first search results, they will be from Wikipedia. And even if you ask a high school learner, they will tell you that they know and they are already using Wikipedia. And it's glad to know that there have been strides for years where librarians with other professionals have joined hands to ensure that this platform becomes authentic and a credible source where references are being added to the articles that are found on this platform, and also incorporating the aspect of language to ensure multilingualism also assists to also ensure that these languages are not marginalized, to where we are slowly closing the gap on a daily basis. And also can also respond to that. There was a call where they were looking for language champions to be part of this project. I'm not sure if the applications are already closed, Thanks a lot for that presentation. Colleagues, now that all our speakers have engaged us, this also brings us to the Q&A and discussion session, where we have an opportunity to engage further with what our speakers have engaged us on, asking questions and also sharing comments. I see there's a lot of comments on the chat option. I think there was one question from Dr. M. I'm not sure if you'd like to, because I'm trying to scroll, Dr. Ngem. I'm not sure if you can unmute yourself and ask that question that you had previously.
Yeah. You had asked the question, Lady D, when Prof was speaking, about our local languages, our mother tongues, and you had asked how many librarians can actually engage in a communication or in a conversation like this in their local languages. And I was wondering, how many of us speak our languages fluently? How many of us can write our languages fluently or even read them fluently? As we advocate for translations and bringing our local languages to the limelight, are we sure we can write them the way they should be written, or do we need collaborations with language teachers and people like that to ensure that librarians, in trying to lead this push, that we get it right? Thank you. That's the question. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess this is something that we have to introspect on as librarians, so that when we go back to say we are really advocating and we want these languages to be implemented, are we really capacitating ourselves in terms of refining our skills, our language skills? Some of us are not really fluent in our mother tongue, so this is a call to all of us to really ensure that we practice what we preach, so that what we are having, this conversation, doesn't actually end here, but it's something that we're going to practice on a daily basis. Thanks a lot, Dr. Ngem, for that. Colleagues, I'm not sure if there are questions. I don't see anything. It's just a lot of comments on the chat option. And I've also seen that there's also an opportunity where Mr. Molepo has highlighted that there's a need for a Wikipedia community of practice to bring librarians together to actively contribute and participate in the Wikipedia project, to ensure that our mother languages are included equally on the platform. I don't see any questions, colleagues, but you're more than welcome to unmute yourselves if you have a burning question. While we're waiting, I can't even see the hands at this point. But I have, okay, I see Mr. Molepo, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. This has been a wonderful symposium. May I maybe just to start with Prof. Mwepe, and obviously I've already written on the comment that I'll be reaching out to him just to see how can we collaborate in taking this project, give it a national footprint, and obviously from the LEASA side, but from the University of the Free State side, where I get paid, we would definitely love to get involved, especially because we try to bridge one of the gap that Prof they've identified, where you find that there are no publishers who would love to would publish on indigenous languages, and that's what led to the University of the Free State Library to have a press, indigenous languages press, and already we have published quite, if not two, a non-fiction material, more academic book, one by the Department of Multilingualism within the university, which we launched last year. And two, yes, Ingrid, there was an interest group that was working, and obviously it fell by the way. So I would like us to seriously, maybe between the next 2 months, try and see we can call a meeting where we can formalize this committee of practice, so that we are in the process of reviewing our constitution, so that it's one of those that we can quickly, because this is a low-hanging fruit that can add value. And one of the pressing issue around the G20 is around cultural preservation, and obviously the issue of languages plays a big role. So, and as South Africa being the G20 presidency, I think this gives us a good time where we can even get government involved. We just had a consultative meeting yesterday with DSEC around this issue, and the South African Library Week will be also looking at that. So this is just my humble appeal to Ingrid and the colleagues that let's get this committee of practice back up again, so that we can begin to see because this SWIP project, I think it's one of the best things that could ever happen to the country, to make sure that all languages catch up to Afrikaans, because that's where we need to start before we can look at challenging English. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thanks a lot, my President. Indeed, and I also like what you said in terms of the Afrikaans language, and there was also a comment on the chats that we really need to work hard and learn from, how the Afrikaners have actually developed and are preserving their language to make sure that it has a space both in our in both in formal institutions, also in this is a language that is I would say, if you say anything about this language, those people would fight you. So I think it's also an opportunity for us. We need to learn from how they preserving this language, ensuring that it doesn't die or become marginalized. I don't see further questions on the chat or the hands either. I have a question for Dr. Okay, I see a hand. Ingrid, please go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I hope you can all hear me. I just want to say part of the Afrikaans Wikipedia success is that they actually work very closely with the Afrikaans Academy. I'm sorry, I don't have the proper name for the academy. Die Suid-Afrikaanse, the Afrikaans Academy. They work very closely with them. So, but there's a dedicated group of editors who are that. I mean, I swear that's literally all they do. So the Afrikaans Wikipedia, I mean, it's the third biggest in Africa. It's a lot of input and energy from the team of Wikimedians. I just want to say part of the challenge. I mean, I know you guys see me coming and you go, oh no, she's going to turn the conversation to Wikipedia again. A lot of concern is that we still have a number of librarians still have that attitude that you don't touch Wikipedia. Like, oh, you just absolutely don't touch Wikipedia. But we need to, and a lot of time, I spend a lot of time trying to advocate and trying to say, hey, this is what it actually is. The policies, I mean, Dr. Nakem can chip in here as well, because AFLIA started with that, with the Wikimedia, the Wikipedia that course, the Wikidata course. Any who's on this course, on this call, also participated in those trainings. We've actually got to equip ourselves and to understand how Wikipedia and how those chapters work. You don't have to be involved with Wikipedia. You can be involved with Wikisource. Anything that is archival, that is in the public domain, that has loose, in the public domain, which affects the copyright, can in fact probably be uploaded to Wikisource. There's a lot of things that we can possibly do, but we need to educate ourselves. So, I mean, Charlie, yes, I think when we get the COP up and running again, that's going to be a large part of it. I've had people, librarians, tell me, no, I mean, Jeremiah spoke about mentioning Wikipedia in the InfoLit sessions that he does. But how many of us here who are librarians and who are doing training actually even talk about Wikipedia? So there's a lot to be done. But it's exciting times, and yeah, the way in is through, for me certainly, is through SWIP. Through that, and it's a flagship project for the Wikimedia chapter.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. And I must say, guilty as charged. I also used to, while I was doing information literacy sessions, engaging students not to actually use Wikipedia. But as one of the advocates, who Zanele Japa, some of you might know her. She advocates for unlearning, and it's time for us to unlearn, colleagues, the narrative. We need to relearn, since there are now strides that are in place to ensure that Wikipedia becomes a credible source. Thanks a lot, colleagues, for this project. I'm not sure if there are more hands. I'm just trying to check here. Nothing at this point. I have a question for Dr. Dem with regards to OER. I know that some academic libraries are really envisioning a time where libraries or librarians can play a role in OER, as being advocates of OERs, and also contributing to OERs. So how can librarians become actively contributors and advocates? Because though we read in theory, but in practice, is this something that is happening in our libraries, where librarians are working, for example, in academic libraries, where they're engaging with faculties or relevant stakeholders in ensuring that these OERs are being used for teaching and learning, if I can put it that way, and also in public libraries as well. Seeing that also languages will also be included in these OERs. It would be nice if some of the resources OERs can be accessible to the general public, but how can librarians ensure that this happens?
Thank you very much, let me start first from what Ingrid has said. You see, let me start from there before I get to your questions. There's something about libraries and Wikimedia projects, Wikipedia and all of that. Right now, AFLIA is running a project to see how can we integrate a Wikimedia project into library routines. And I can tell you what we are learning is mind-blowing. How you can create semantic authority files linking what you have in your Koha in MAC to Wikibase for greater visibility all over the globe. So that's what we are working on now. And what I can tell us is that every librarian should be a Wikipedian, because honestly, again, we can lead the way. we can help all see that these resources we have can actually be used to make Wikipedia better. So that's that. Thank you for calling me that out on that, Ingrid. Then about what you asked, Lady D, you see, librarians, like I said, first of all, they need to understand, not just the theory, like you said, but what are these open licenses? How do you generate them? Simple thing that everybody can learn, so that when you talk to your user communities about it, you will be speaking from a place of knowledge that these are the benefits that one can have when you do this, and then that this is the way you can do it. And why AFLIA is angling that librarians being in front of this is that if we leave this out, or if librarians leave this out and others take over, we will have a problem down the line, because librarians are critical for everything as pertains to access to knowledge, dissemination of knowledge. So that is why we have to be right at the center of this. Then there was something that Prof said, and I wrote it back to my team immediately, that all over, well, in Africa, we have these platforms where we can share African stories. Like I said, we have the one of Saidi. You can share your African stories there in your local languages. And we also encourage people to go to the one of the Story Weaver, where AFLIA has a digital collection of I think we have more than 400 or so storybooks in different languages from all over Africa. But we do not have a platform yet for where we can share or where we can post academic content, researches in our local languages. President Charles said something about his university, the publishing press there. That is great. But what we are looking at, how possible is that? How possible is it to have a Pan-African platform that will accept academic content in our local languages? And such a platform will have this AI translation tools, so that if we as librarians can convince our user communities to publish, or even if ourselves we can publish using open licenses, and then we put it on such a platform, the translation tools there can help us translate into our local languages. And those that can speak it well will now go in and say, let's correct this. Okay, this didn't translate well, and so on and so forth. Because honestly, I can tell you, Africa needs, how do I put it? Africa needs knowledge in our local languages, so that we can bring it down for people that are not within the four walls of universities, of schools, and so on. For people in villages to access. Wikimedia projects they are doing that a lot. They are, because I know that there is Wikiversity, you can even upload such a thing. But what I'm looking at is the one that will contain African languages, because we have 2,000 plus. Is it possible that we can encourage our people to do that? And that is why I say the UNESCO OER recommendation is quite critical, because that is like the platform that we use, that we can use to say, hey, dear government officials, dear school officials, this is what we can use, this is what we can do, because all over the world, it's just like the UN 2030 agenda. And also, I forgot to share that AFLIA got a fund from Flora and William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. And we are building a course on inclusive OERs. We have these OERs all over the world now, and you find out that most examples, inside of them are from climes outside of Africa. You see, they'll tell you, oh, this is an openly licensed resource, and you won't find anything African there. You won't find any Black person in the pictures, no examples from Africa and so on. So we are working on correcting that using our librarians again. Of course, we'll teach them and hope that they will pick up that. And AFLA has also spoken with the OER Commons because we did something and we found out that that global platform does not have African OERs. Why? We asked them and they were okay, we'll see how it can be done. So we are working on all of that. But if we can get a platform that's truly Pan-African, like the prof said, that will host our academic writings, our content, findings, and so on, local content in our local languages, that would be wonderful. Thank you. I hope I answered you, Lady D. Thank you.
That was a mouthful. Thanks a lot, Dr. Nkem. And when you were responding, you also, I also thought of this as being an Afrocentric methodology to solve our problems in Africa. Because we tend to, as Africans, we tend to apply Western or Eurocentric methodologies in solving our problems. We have, we are experiencing information poverty where we don't have our communities are still lacking access to as librarians to ensure that that information becomes accessible to our communities. And also that highlights the philosophical principle of Ubuntu in terms of sharing, ensuring equality and also justice as well. Thank you very much. I don't see hands here. On the chats, there's nothing. There are no questions, just comments. There's a question that I also noted, but this can be this is directed to all speakers. In terms of our languages, it's some of the languages have different dialects, and that actually makes it difficult in some instances to formalize, to make these languages or embed them, for example, in teaching and learning, because you find that there might be various dialects. And I'm saying this because we recently conducted a study among the NEET, the youth that is not in education, training, or employment, where we went to the communities to provide, as librarians, as part of community engagement, where we went to provide information literacy. And we asked them if they would prefer to be taught or engaged in their mother tongue. And most of them, I would say, they said no, because from a younger age, they have been taught in English. That's what they are familiar with. And they also highlighted the issue of dialects as well. So how can we mitigate against this? How can we ensure that there is formality and standardization? This is directed to all speakers. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lady D. You know, what you said is true. There are so many dialects. My local language, I think we have more than 20 or 30 dialects, and some I do not even understand. But irrespective of that, we have a central one that we write with. You know, many languages are that way. There's a centralized, standardized way of spelling of words, of intonation marks, and so on, because these dialects must exist. But within the dialects, for every language, there's a central one. There's a way that they write it. And if we are true to ourselves without being emotional, you find out that even if it's not your dialect, there's a central one. So I think that librarians will need to stick to that kind of categorization, so that we do not lead to confusion as we try to bring our local languages to the fore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Dr. Nkem, for that. Colleagues, I'm not sure if there are more comments, questions, or recommendation for us as librarians to preserve our languages, be active advocates in our communities, both in our workplaces and also in where we're staying in our communities as well. We still have, okay, I see Jeremiah. Over to you, Jeremiah. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to also comment on the question that you asked. I think dialects is such it's so difficult to tackle because, as Dr. Nkem just alluded to, there can be so many dialects of just one spoken language. But I think so. The example of Afrikaans that I mentioned in my presentation, that's an example of a well-established dialect that could be added to something like Wikipedia and in that way preserving that particular dialect. And then I think with SWIP, with the partnership with PANSAL, Pan South African Languages Board, the the intention there is to preserve our South African languages as they are uh, safeguarded and as PANSALB, as the language authority of South Africa, protects the languages as they are. But I think we should definitely open up space for speaking about how we can also preserve some of the dialects, if not all, just so that there's some record of our mother languages in South Africa.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. Because as it has been highlighted by the speakers, that even though some of the languages are not official or recognized, but we mustn't just let those languages die. We should preserve them, as you are saying, Jeremiah. Thanks a lot for that. Colleagues, I'm not sure if there are any additional comments, questions, further comments, questions. Prof. Mwepe? Prof?
I just wanted to say that for me, dialects are necessary to be included in the main language. Like if we have to speak of Northern Sotho, it's got close to 16 dialects. For me, those words that are spoken in different regions should form part of the synonyms so that it enriches and the language, so that it's not limited in terms of usage. So I don't see why otherwise, if you exclude within a Northern Sotho, you exclude other dialect, it might create a confusion where in those others would want to be a language on their own rather than being under the umbrella language. That is my take in terms of dialects. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. So, I'm not sure if there are further comments from the floor. I don't see any hands. Colleagues, we only have a few minutes until our session ends. If we don't have any questions or comments, I think we can end early. However, Mr. Molepo also requested that we take a group photo for those that are comfortable with opening their camera so that we can take a photo. I think we will also submit this to Liasa in Touch as part of the activities. I'll open my camera. Can we please open our cameras so that we take a group photo? Coming. All right. Let's open our cameras, colleagues, for a group photo. All right. Are you ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Thank you, colleagues. Captured. Thank you so much for